There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Love, getting more out of life. Love, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness, brand new in 2020. Couldn't get a better day. The sun's shining and I would be more than happy to be standing alongside my two favourite people, Stanley and Luke Hines. Hello, guys.
Das, Heinzie, it's so great to be back.
Great to see you again. Great to be back. We're very excited for the House of Wellness this year. How was your summer break, Jo? What did you get up to?
Oh, I had a good old staycation in glorious Melbourne, so lots of bike rides and museums and galleries. I was a tourist in my own town.
I don't blame you. How good is this weather? And what about you, Heinzie? What did you get up to?
So I travel a lot throughout the year, so for me it was all about staying home as well. Lots of ocean swims and plenty of puppy time with my beautiful girl Chia.
White Christmas for me. Took the family away. It was a magic experience, something that
Skiing?
I will... A bit of skiing.
Ooh,
and
you
don't
didn't
look
break
like...
anything?
No, I actually got through unscathed. I loved it. Great bit of family time. So very, very excited to have done that. Now, you know, 79% of Australians set a New Year's resolution, most of them around health, fitness, financial well-being goals. What about you, Jo, for this year?
Well, over summer, I have shifted to an almost entirely plant-based diet.
There you go.
I know it's amazing. I do miss meat, but I'm healthier for it.
Keen to find out more about that at some stage.
I am determined, though, this year then, to grow a herb garden. Help me, Heinz.
Okay, I'm going to come over and help.
I have no green thumb, so it's going to be a challenge. But for most people, it's all about getting more sleep and a better work-life balance. I feel like you're across that, Heinz.
No, a lot of people think that I'm across it when in fact I'm still dealing with it myself. But I think when it comes to work-life balance, it's about progress, not perfection. Just do the best that you can and relax a bit of that stress off yourselves.
Yeah, well said. All striving for a bit of work-life balance, no doubt about that. We're also feeling for everyone who's devastated by the bushfire. It was a horror summer, really, in lots of ways. And shortly in the show, we're going to catch up with someone at the coalface looking after our injured wildlife, Jo, who were devastated by the fires.
Oh, it's so true, Darcy. It has just been a summer of so much loss and devastating destruction. And it's really hard, I think, to remain optimistic when you think about that, but there is so much to be really optimistic and positive about heading into 2020 and indeed the future.
You're right, Jo. So guys, prosperity is actually on the rise, with the World Bank stating that more than 1 billion people have moved from extreme poverty since 1990. So that's incredible news.
And some hope behind you. Humans are actually getting smarter. Bill Gates, one of the richest men on the planet, tracking global IQ and suggesting it's raised by 3 points per person. So hopefully that comes, Jo, with a bit of self-awareness as well.
Yes, also renewable energy is on the rise globally, and most importantly, equality and total acceptance. We see it particularly with women taking more positions of power, but also complete and utter acceptance of all cultures and races and the LGBT community.
And we're all about health, wellness and happiness here. So as we see advancements in technology, we see advancements in healthcare as well. So it's great news all round.
The best news, though, is that we're back for 2020, guys. Excited to be with you on the House of Wellness. And after the break, we're going to meet an incredible vet at the front line of saving the injured wildlife. That's coming up right here on the House of Wellness. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the devastating bushfires that have ravaged Australia in the past month and the importance of staying optimistic during tough times. Now, one man who always finds a way to be optimistic during any time is our own Gerald Quigley. Welcome to you, GQ.
Thanks, Das, Jo, Heinzie.
Good to see you,
Terrific
mate.
to be back and happy 2020.
Absolutely. Of course, the other big story in recent weeks is the coronavirus outbreak. And every day we read more and hear more. Can you give us an overview, Gerald?
Coronavirus, Jo, has been around for yonks, and the difficulty is that they usually live in animals, but they're now sort of moving into humans. Corona comes from the crown shape, so the shape has been identified, and that at least is a start because we know a little bit about it. So animal coronaviruses have been shown to evolve and infect humans. We've seen it before. We saw it with SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, 2002. We saw it in MERS, the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, 2012. This is different, and this is why it's called novel, because we're still learning so much about it. And every day there seems to be new things coming up.
Gerard, isn't the reality that the symptoms are like the common cold, runny nose or a cough, or a lot of people actually aren't displaying any symptoms at all? But is it a fact that most people, the vast majority of people, are going to get this, develop their own immunity and be okay, or should we be more alarmed than that?
We hope that will happen to us because this has happened before. In fact, I did ask an expert recently, will you ever see it just settling down? He said, well, yes, they usually do. The difference here is that it is different, and that's why it's called a novel coronavirus.
So it's funny, GQ, that you talk about this virus word, which means it's spread by particles, but it can't be treated with antibiotics, correct?
No, and that's so true, Heinzie. Therefore, and viruses like to be happily hosted. They like a host that they can stay happy with. This one, though, if the host is a person with a chronic lung disease or other diseases, then they don't have the immune resistance to actually help them cope. So, look, it's all about prevention. And prevention we talk about often with the common cold, but more than ever now, we go back to what Granny used to say. If you're going to sneeze, sneeze into your elbow. If you're going to cough, or cough into your elbow, but just be aware of people around you and always wash your hands before you eat.
Yep, so message, wash your hands and look after your hygiene is the basic message today. It's been a tough summer, GQ, on many fronts. We touched on the fires earlier. It seemed like the whole country was blanketed in smoke haze, and at one point the Chief Health Officer said that the air quality here in Melbourne was the worst in the world.
It's been tough to us, and it certainly was a welcome relief when those strong winds came in and blew that smoke away. And I get lots of questions about the implications of bushfire smoke where people are being worried about their own health. And we've been very concerned about young children and the elderly, and particularly those who are struggling with chronic disease. And we're talking here about fine particulate matter, a fancy way of saying so small, this PM 2.5, so small it goes up through your nose without stopping. Normal smoke, a fair bit of it, the ash is actually trapped in your nose. But this goes through your nose down into your lungs, and again is so small it basically infiltrates lung tissue, goes through your body and then causes inflammation. So any disease that inflammation is involved in, as most are, potentially can cause a problem. So if you're outside, people were using masks, which were great. Others used an isotonic saline without a preservative just to keep their nose fairly free. But bear in mind those particles were still going through. The difficulty is this super fine bushfire smoke is hanging around, and that's why it's different from normal smoke. So we're still seeing brown, orange sunsets and sunrises, and there's now, we know, definite links between environmental pollution like this and the development of chronic disease.
Gerald, thank you for your update and your expertise. As always, great to be back on the couch with Gerald Quigley in season 2020 here on the House of Wellness.
It's estimated that around 1.25 billion animals have been lost around Australia in the fires, with many more injured and homeless. And we've all seen the images of burnt and thirsty koalas in particular that were beamed the world over.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, Joe, isn't it? And joining us now to give us an update, welcome RSPCA vet who was at the front line of saving animals in the recent bushfires. Welcome Dr. Rupert Baker.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We've all seen, as we said, or experienced firsthand the devastation caused by the fires. How are things on the wildlife front right now?
For wildlife, the impacts from fire varies. So it varies between species and it depends on what type of habitats you're in. So we think of it as one big event, but it's actually for those animals would have occurred in lots of different spots. And across the whole area, it actually becomes a little question about not just individuals, but about species as well.
I mean, there are so many different animals that have been lost and injured, but we've seen so many images of koalas. Are they particularly more vulnerable?
What happens with the koala is that they tend to survive the fire front better than some other species. Birds often will fly away from fires, but you may have seen in the press some stuff about multiple bird deaths, and that's because they died from radiant heat. Koalas tend to actually be larger, they're well insulated. Yes, they get burns on their hands and their feet, but they tend to sometimes survive some of the fire front when it comes through compared to a smaller animal.
Right.
So they survive better. They're easy to find.
Must have been an incredibly challenging time for you and your team out there seeing this firsthand, animal lovers and your profession. Can you give us an insight into what that's been like?
It can be confronting, but I think also it's compassion. It's a compassionate thing to do. You're looking after this animal. It may be injured, and it feels terrible when you see the images and you think, that would be awful and it's really helpless. But by the same token, you want to help. And it actually, in a way, there's a good feeling about being able to do that.
Well, we see so many images, particularly on social media, I think, of koalas being hand-fed water. Is that the right thing to do? Should we be handling the animals, and what's the right way of helping an injured animal?
I think the first thing for everyone is to make sure you're safe, you know. Trying to tackle a large kangaroo that could weigh 70 kilos,
Sure.
you know.
I don't think I'd do that.
Exactly. Good choice, you know. So you try to contact your local wildlife carer, you contact your local government. There will be people there who may have more experience at capturing those animals. So if you did have a koala there, for example, I guess the question is, you know, do you give it water? And I've read these things on social media about, you know, what's the best way to give a koala water? Well, a bowl of water for any wildlife after a fire is it's a good thing to do. And if you were holding that animal, you know, giving it some space, keeping it dark and quiet, and then getting it to somewhere where it can get triaged and assessed really is what you want to be doing.
Groups such as the World Wildlife Fund, the Australian Koala Foundation and plenty of others need your help, so go online to find out how you can donate, volunteer or even adopt a koala. The RSPCA have a dedicated bushfire hotline that you'll also be able to find on our website. Thanks, Rupert, for your work and your colleagues, the great stuff that you're doing. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, it's time to turn our attention to something exciting for parents, maybe not so much for kids. It's back to school time, Joe. You happy?
Yes, so happy.
That's next here on the House of Wellness. Welcome back to the House of Wellness. Well, my kids are back at school, Joe, and Willow too, I believe.
She is, and she's very happy about it.
Not as happy as her mum.
Let me tell you.
As another year starts and kicks into gear, spare a thought for those kids stepping out of the primary school yard into the big kids arena at high school for the first time.
I'm looking forward to going to high school, so be treated less like a kid.
It's like just gonna be a whole new experience.
It's really scary.
A big change has arrived for tweens all around the country, and none of them are quite sure what to expect.
I've been told there's a lot more responsibilities, but I'm not quite sure what that means yet.
I want to learn more about the timetables and how it works.
I'm scared to give the wrong homework to the wrong teacher.
Sometimes I'm worried that I'll leave it to the last minute to do stuff. So if I have an essay to hand in on Monday, I'll forget it until Sunday.
Lots of people say that they won't get time to do their stuff that they want to. It's full of homework, and yeah, that's a bit worries me a bit.
It'll be hours and hours just working.
But navigating the mechanics of school life is not nearly as daunting as the even bigger great unknown.
I wish people would tell me more about the students there, so it'll be easier to make friends, because I've seen the girls in my class and I have no idea how to make friends with them because they're all in their little groups.
In primary school, we all stay in one class with the same teacher, and I'm comfortable around them. So to make new friends is I've forgotten how to do that.
Some high schools tend to have lots of bullies. Bullies just shove people's faces down the toilets, and I don't want that to happen to me. That's gonna feel weird.
With the leap into high school comes increased independence, and that comes with a degree of self-inflicted pressure.
I want to actually have a big challenge.
I really want to look like an independent person in my family, to make them proud, and so they don't have to worry about me a lot.
I'm the oldest in my family, and that's kind of a big deal because I have to be the role model. I'm kind of nervous for that.
They keep saying it's a big jump to high school, but sometimes I want to feel like the small kid again.
Yep, it's going to be a big transition. So take a step back in time and remember what it was like when you hit high school.
I really like people to tell me more about their experiences in high school, so I can find out what they did different to me. So give me tips and stuff.
I think what family and friends could do is help me a little more and tell me what to expect, but not too much, so I can like learn valuable lessons that will be special to me.
Well, wise words from a great group of kids who can teach us a lot about high school in the 2020s, as can our next guest. Welcome child psychologist Dr. Charlotte Keating to the House of Wellness.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Thanks for coming in. We heard from the kids just now that some of their fears include unfamiliar timetables, more homework, and bullying is a big thing. Is that what you're hearing a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a time of change for them, isn't it? Their classes change, their friends change, their teachers change. And also, too, there might be unresolved issues from the previous year. There could be kids that they didn't get along with so well. There could be the case, you know, that they were bullied. And so those sort of, I guess, fears start to surface a little bit. And we think, you know, sort of more broadly about the statistics on bullying. Look at the Mission Australia survey, 15 to 19-year-olds, more than 20,000 people surveyed. 1 in 5 reported being bullied in the last 12 months. Yeah. The research is a little bit varied, but yeah, it's a big problem, and it's certainly on the minds of lots of young people when they go back to school.
I think as a parent, it can be easy to employ a bit of tough love and think, you know, just suck it up and you'll be fine. But we see that there's genuine anxiety for some of these kids. What sorts of factors contribute to that?
Yeah, Jo, look, I think it's, you know, what you're sort of saying is it's a really good opportunity to check in with kids at this time of year about what it is that might be worrying them. There's lots to look forward to, obviously, in terms of school going back and seeing their friends and getting involved in, you know, sort of structure and routine. And, you know, although some kids don't want to go back to school, they really do thrive and start to enjoy that routine. But for many, you know, that sort of sense of change can be quite stressful. And if the stress of that change and the changes of, you know, school, social, environment, teachers, if that stress doesn't subside over time, it can lead to anxiety. And we know that 6.9% of 14 to 17-year-olds do experience anxiety, and we know that half of all mental health conditions present by the time that kids are 14 years old. So we are looking at the context of change with that sort of particular backdrop.
Well, Charlotte, I guess making new friends and that feeling of fitting in can be a huge concern for many people. I personally was very overweight when I was a kid. I was so nervous making that transition from primary school to high school because I thought, here we go again. I'm just going to be picked on from the start, just as a new bunch of people. Are there any tactics or tools and techniques when it comes to, I guess, reducing or managing bullying and that resilience that we need to build?
Look, absolutely, and I think that your story is unfortunately, you know, quite similar for many young kids that are changing schools perhaps this year. And some of the things that really help is when parents can actually chat to their kids about having gone through similar things, just like what you have, because it really makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And some of those things they've experienced, and they've got tips and things that they can help sort of impart that make their young person feel a little bit sort of safer about it. And also too, if you can talk about these things with your young person, it sort of sets up almost like a way that they can expect to come to you and have these safe conversations throughout the year, if indeed it sort of comes about or comes up. I think, you know, one of the other things that's also important too with these conversations you have with kids is making sure they know what bullying is and actually what bullying is not. So that then if it's happening to them or to kids that they do know, they've got someone to come and talk to about it who they genuinely think will help them and do something about it.
Charlotte, that's a really good point, and jump in on that, because the real form of bullying, the systematic, you know, and targeted abuse for kids is about as bad as it gets. But I think bullying's become such an overused word in some ways now that perhaps, you know, some innocent play then gets targeted and it diminishes when you do see real bully. Is that something you're concerned about as well?
I think it's so important to really make sure that we understand that bullying is something that is deliberate and it's repeated. It can be psychological, social or physical and intended to cause harm.
Yeah.
It's where it's not deliberate and repeated. It might be an incident of teasing, it could be some nastiness in the playground, it could be a fight. Those things are genuinely distressing and do of course need to be managed, but it is different from bullying per se.
Right. We saw in the video there a girl who was saying that she's looking forward to being treated less like a kid, which my daughter's 11 and she desperately wants to grow up.
Yep.
But as a parent, again, I'm very flawed. How do we manage children who want to take responsibility but we also want to not burden them with adult worries and pressures?
Absolutely, and I think it's a case-by-case basis. some children can be a certain age, and then the next one that you might have, if you have more than one, comes along, they're that age, and you're like, wow, there's some real differences in terms of emotional maturity and development. You sort of have to gauge what your young person is ready for in terms of what you do give them responsibility for, what you do share with them, in terms of their readiness for it. And depending on what topic it might be, you know, the idea is to go with their level of questioning. What's their understanding? What are they asking you about? You know, not necessarily flooding them with information, as of course there's been many things that have been happening in the world around us lately, where conversations can, you know, just run without having that
It can
opportunity
be
for
terrifying for them.
Yeah.
And the emotions are intense for parents too. When you're talking about the health and the happiness of your own kids, it's an interesting situation. Charlotte, thanks for coming in today and giving us your insight into what a lot of people are dealing with at the moment.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It was great to catch up with Charlotte. Our school survival lessons continue as we serve up some lunchbox ideas. That's coming up right after the break on the House and Wellness. Welcome back. School's back in full swing, and for parents that also means brushing up on the 3 R's, Jo, which is rushing around in the morning, routine, and ranting at the kids to get off their devices. Does that sound familiar?
Oh my God, it's a big change for everyone after lounging around over the break, Darcy. If you're in a constant battle over devices taking over your child's life, there is some light at the end of the tunnel with schools in many states banning mobile phones during school hours. It is the best. Victoria was the first state to adopt the ban, and Western Australia and Tasmania followed closely behind. It's brilliant.
Well, guys, it's happening right now, and hopefully we'll have the desired outcome, which I guess is to prevent distraction and curb cyberbullying. Do you reckon it'll work?
Well, I think it's a great idea, Hinesy, but for me, it hasn't happened in all schools. The public schools and the government schools that have been legislated that they're not allowed to have mobile phones in classes. But my kids' 2 schools, they've gone the other way and said, no, it's a device they should have at school.
What?
They need it for their work.
Oh, no.
So I'm getting
Really?
text messages every 5 minutes from the kids, you know, middle of their maths lesson. It's like you put all the work in at home to try and restrict the use of their phone.
Yeah.
I think they've got it wrong.
Oh, I couldn't stand it. It's so important that they look up and see the world and learn from experiential sort of learning and interaction, not looking down at the screens. I don't understand it.
I'm with you, Jo.
They've got laptops and they've got computers and other devices as well. So the distraction from the phone, I think the government's done the right thing. But work in progress, because that's still, we talk about this all the time in the House of Wellness, that is the biggest battle that you have on a daily basis, is how do you try and minimise the amount of time that we're on our devices, including ourselves.
Well, and we're bad role models. We're always on the phone. That's the problem.
Lucky I don't have kids.
Get off the phone. I'm busy with my phone right now, OK?
Exactly. Well, from minimising screen time to maximising kids' energy levels at school, Jo, do you struggle with the daily routine of trying to make a lunchbox?
Oh, actually, I really love it. Willow and I do it together. She, luckily for me, always has a Vegemite sandwich every day of her life since prep. So that's easy. But we love talking about brain food, what's going to fuel her learning. So it's kind of something we do together, which I'm sure there are parents gnashing their teeth when they hear me say that at home.
I'd like to import you, Hines, in to make the lunchboxes in our house. You'd be absolutely perfect. My mum was a bit ahead of her time looking back. Always healthy, always fresh fruit, you know, carrot and celery cut up. And I hated it at the time, but
Now,
she
guys,
was probably on the right path.
I'm going to throw one of our producers under the bus right now. So our beloved EP actually used to get sent to school with something called PEX paste. Have you heard of it?
No.
It is literally ground anchovies in a jar, sent to school in a soggy sandwich. Now, thankfully...
Pretty hard to make friends with an anchovy sandwich.
I know. Can you imagine rocking up to school with that? I mean, it's like opening up a tin of tuna on a plane. You just don't do it. Now, thankfully, the days of a half-stale Vegemite sanger and a packet of chips are long gone. Today, it's all about variety, nutrition, colour and taste, limited only by your imagination. And as our nutritionist, Zoe Bingley-Pullen, and that lunchbox dad, George Georgievsky, are here to prove.
Things have certainly changed since I was going back to school. The uniforms, books, and of course, what goes in the lunchbox.
Oh my God, that photo. It feels like it was yesterday. That was me, I know, can you believe it?
Wow.
You know, my dad used to make my lunch, and one of my favourite sandwiches, it sounds a bit strange that my dad used to make, was ox tongue and tomato sauce sandwiches.
Ouch. Ouch. But I did have a lunchbox moment one day when my mum literally interrupted an inter-school soccer game. She walked onto the field with a jam croissant, it's this Macedonian sort of thing, and she gives it to me while I'm trying to play a game of soccer against another school, so...
Oh, I mean, I've got to say, that does actually sound quite delicious, better than ox tongue sandwiches,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
ask me. What would be your top tips for fussy eaters?
Okay, well, basically, kids do eat with their eyes, so it's all about colour and fresh produce. And also, I guess, getting them involved before school starts. So over the holidays, if you can use the lunchbox or bento that they're going to use at school to make it less daunting, and a case of monkey see, monkey do. If they see you eating the fruit and veg you want them to eat, chances are they will also.
Well, not only are they going to feel good when they eat this food, but it's a rich source of protein, which is coming from the tuna. I love that the fact that this has got omega-3 fatty acids, but particularly something called DHA. So we really need to eat a lot of these foods. And as we know, kids are thinking, they're learning, they're using their brain all the time. And the other fat I love is avocado. This is omega-3 fat, it's poly and monounsaturated fat, that lovely creamy texture. But over and above, I'm pretty sure, George, that this combination would taste amazing.
I was thinking the same thing myself. Lunchbox number 2 is all about colours.
Ooh.
Okay, it's all about the rainbow. That's
that.
my inspiration. So we're going to incorporate as many colours as we can.
So, George, what are your take-home tips for time-poor parents and lunchboxes?
Okay, well, what works for us is we go shopping on a Sunday evening with my daughters and we stick to a shopping list. So having a good shopping list always helps, and that way you're not sort of diverting from it. And when we come home, we wash all the fresh produce and the veggies, pop it in the airtight containers, straight in the fridge. That way in the morning it's done and all we're doing is just assembling.
This really is a rainbow of yummy colour, but there's lots of fussy kids out there who might not like tuna or salmon, and they might like avocado and chia seeds. So this is a great opportunity to supplement with a good quality fish oil to really maintain that DHA for their brain, which is so necessary. George, I cannot wait to see what number 3 lunchbox is going to look like.
Okay, Zoe, this is all about creativity and it's about turning the old, boring piece of bread into something special and creative. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a spring roll.
Ooh, I love this. And I think you've got a bit of kind of catchy, cool name for it. What do you call it?
Spring Witch.
I love this. So, George, you must have a favourite dad joke. Can you tell me what it is?
Well, funny you say that because next year it's my wife and I, it's our 20th wedding anniversary.
Aw,
so
very sweet.
It is. So I said to her, where are you taking me? And she said, I'm going to take you to Hawaii. I'm like, great. I thought, that's so good. I said, so what are we going to do for our 25th wedding anniversary? She said, I'll come back and pick you up.
Ah! Boom. Do you know what, George? This has been 3 not only nutritional, colourful and creative lunchbox, but overall, it's a parent's dream. Thank you so much for your wonderful ideas and, of course, your corny dad jokes.
Hey, they were great, hey? But no, thank you, Zoe. Thanks for having me and thank you for your nutritional advice. Loved it. Going to take it all on board.
Always love a good dad joke, some classics from George there. Now, Joe, I need to ask you, are you an embarrassing mum to Willow?
Well, I did once send Willow to the movies with carrot sticks. So all of her friends are eating popcorn and chips and she's eating
What are you trying to do to her, Jo?
I know,
Can't
social
do
death.
that.
I've never done it again, so I do apologise.
Fair enough.
But from being left red-faced at the hands of a daggy dad or a mortifying mum like me to looking fresh-faced and flawless, here at the House of Wellness we have an expert team that helps the 3 of us shine in front of the cameras. We have production and studio crew, producers, wardrobe, they're all over there. They're amazing and we love them. And, of course, makeup. I did not wake up like this.
No.
Eyes are the little black dress of the face. You can dress them up or you can play them down. Let's play eyes.
Yeah.
I always start off priming eyes. So that helps makeup to last all day long. Just evening out the skin tone, evening out the surface of the skin. It gives the makeup something to hold on to.
Well, you're already one step ahead of anything I've ever done with my eyes.
One thing that I really find when I look around is that there's a tiny little gap between lashes and eyes. So by putting the eyeliner on first, we can really work that product right into the base of the lashes, and it opens eyes. And this also means that when we're doing a smoky eye, that we've got a really nice base for our deeper colour. We can soften that eyeliner down for a smoky eye. And from there, we'll go into popping some eye colour on. So I like to start with a medium wash of colour, but I work it into my brush so I don't get too much what's called fallout. So that's where the eyeshadow falls. And then I just sweep a wash of colour over the whole mobile lid. So if you can nail a smoky eye look, you can jazz it up and do a winged smoky eye, or you can downplay it and do a soft daytime smoky eye. Right now I'm blending the deeper shadow in with the eyeliner. So it softens that eyeliner down, which is what we want for a smoky eye look. And then to add a little bit of fun, we're mixing in a little bit of gold today. So I love to do a little bit of a double coat of mascara. So I start from underneath and then I work it from the top. And it's a little bit of a push and wiggle. And that way you double coat your lashes. This is where the magic happens, Joe.
That's my favourite part.
No look is complete without lashes. And I love, love, love individual lashes. Just blending that last little softening of those edges off into the contour. And voila, daytime smoky eye look. The daytime smoky eye look in about 10 to 15 minutes. And here's the results.
Welcome back. If you love your sport like me, Joe, you've had plenty to choose from over the summer. The Australian Open tennis is huge. Cricket, the Tri-Nation Series, the Tour Down Under. I love the American sports, the Super Bowl. It's full-on summer of sport, and what it does, Joe, it makes us all want to pick up a racket, cricket ball, or jump on a bike.
Oh yes, all that combined with some great weather makes us want to be fit, to get out there and just do stuff in the sunshine, which is why the E word is thrown around so much. It's all about having the energy to do it.
I love kicking my day off with a super green smoothie like this one, or even my Power Up coffee. Gerald, how do you kickstart your day?
Always, Heinzie, with some eggs, some baked beans, some avocado, and really a coffee. That's how I start my day.
I've got to say, the one thing I love about everything you've listed, and why I'm using these ingredients in particular, is because they're packed full of energy.
And energy is very important. And with the greatest respect to your smoothie, I also add some coenzyme Q10. I want my energy to be there first thing in the morning without having to go through all the preparation.
All right, I reckon there's a lot of people who always hear the terms coenzyme Q10 and have no idea what it even means. Can you explain?
It's a fat-soluble nutrient, very important in energy production, Heinzie. And what it does, even though we make very little of it in our body, as we age, we need more, but we're producing less. So using the food's very important. But if you want to maintain healthy cardiovascular function, maintain your energy levels, and just generally be up and about, it's worth considering coenzyme Q10.
So you mentioned briefly that it can be found in food. I mean, off the top of my head, we're talking things like offal, fatty fish, spinach, broccoli. How much of those type of foods, though, would you have to be eating?
We would be drinking your smoothies all day, day after day after day, and still wouldn't have enough to really lift our levels to the point where it's worthwhile. So it contributes. So taking it regularly, if you are needing energy, is very important.
So you're talking a lot about CoQ10, ubiquinol being good for people who need energy. Who else is it good for?
Those who want to make sure their heart's full of energy, so cardiovascular patients. Those who exercise a lot, who find it difficult to recover from their activity. Those who are taking a medication that depletes you of coenzyme Q10. A whole range of people. It is what we call a really essential nutrient.
Mate, you've convinced me. I'm feeling energised just thinking about it. Mate, I always say when people are going to have a smoothie, it's got to be packed with so many nutrients, it's the equivalent of a meal. And I tell you what, avocado, macadamias, blueberries, kale, spinach, it is all here. This is energy in a glass.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll use this energy to wash my energy capsule down.
Hope you love it. The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Go Healthy, the superior supplement for healthy energy and vitality. Try New Zealand's #1 premium supplement, now available in Australia.
Nice work, Hinesy and GQ. It seems there's a dedicated day for everything, and today is no exception, Joe, but this one is an absolute beauty. Each year, February 9 is National Pizza Day. Did you know that?
Oh, love it.
Music to your ears.
Yes.
Are you a thin crust or a deep dish pizza
Oh,
style?
definitely thin and crispy. I like it, yes. It's
Okay,
crunchy
Hinesy,
in your mouth.
This is your department.
All right.
I'm going to ask you a question once before. Pineapple on a pizza?
Oh, I'm okay with pineapple. Yay or nay, doesn't really matter. But the issue I have is with avocado on a pizza, because no avocado should ever be served hot.
Oh, I
Toasted
agree.
sandwiches, pizzas, it is disgusting. Slimy, hot, in the mouthfeel. Nah, it's too much.
Well, an estimated 5 billion pizzas are sold worldwide every year, with around 264 million of those eaten right here in Australia. That is a serious amount of pizza dough.
It is. And speaking of dough dust, did you know that the Norwegians are the biggest pizza consumers in the world? I'm surprised. I thought it would be America, but it's not. Aussies, we sit at 8th.
Okay.
So that's okay.
I totally would have thought that the US would have been #1. But interestingly, Joe, Saturday night is the most popular night to eat pizza, and the two popular are meat lovers and Hawaiians. So obviously pineapple's doing right for some people. And can I just say, I do an absolutely mean pizza topping. We're talking pesto, crispy sweet potato. But if you want to have the toppings, you've got to deal with the fact that my base is made out of cauliflower and it's going to make you a bit farty.
Oh, okay.
No, it does.
That
I
makes
just
for a
need to tell you, it does.
Thanks for the heads up.
Great Saturday night.
Next time you make me a cauliflower pizza, I'll keep that in mind. I was going to say I could go a slice right now, but you might have just turned me off.
There you go.
We're going to come back with more on the House of Wellness right after this. Welcome back. Now, Joe, becoming a parent for the first time is about as exciting as it gets. I can still remember when that news first came through, and it would have been the same for you, I'm assuming.
Oh, it's one of the greatest joys you can ever experience. I will say it is a huge roller coaster of constant surprises.
I'm not sure. Now, guys, I'm not a parent yet, and who knows, I might be one day, but I'll have to get some advice off you guys if that's the case. But what I do know, and then I'm asked by many questions from women who are pregnant about food and exercise and how to manage their lives through what is an incredibly special time.
So whether you're preparing to conceive, newly pregnant or just about to pop, looking after your health is paramount.
Welcome, guys. It's interesting with pregnancy because it's kind of perhaps one of the first times in our lives where we need to start considering how we're looking after ourselves so we can learn how to look after others. We are West. Keep rubbing that down. Read all the magazines, they're all really old. So at any stage of your pregnancy, were you conscious about what you were eating?
I did my best, and I think you can only do what kind of what feels right.
Certainly when you conceive, it is quite scary. There seems to be a lot of myths about what mums can and can't eat when they're pregnant. So first of all, I would say go with your gut, so to speak, and just trust your body and trust yourself.
After the news was out, we're pregnant and, it's all happening, my mum said, okay, so what can't you eat now? Because, obviously in the 80s, they were eating everything.
Whatever they wanted,
Yeah, and there wasn't as much knowledge, I think, too.
What foods were you encouraged to eat?
Fruit for breakfast, and also I'm obsessed with my green juices that I have in the morning, which was apple cider vinegar and kale, all the yuck stuff.
Brilliant, yes. Apple cider vinegar has lots of digestive enzymes. It's quite alkalising on the body. It's great for gut health, so it's brilliant that you did that every day.
Obviously being pregnant, how to say it nicely, it kind of clogs you up a little bit. But you know what, the fibre, even fruit, I found that some days I've been craving fruit. And other days, it just helps with your whole digestive system.
I was eating mushrooms, raw mushrooms, like apples. And apparently that was really good vitamin B for the baby's brain development. I'm like, that's why my son's so smart.
Let's remember that when you're pregnant, your nutritional demands are tenfold of what you normally are. So that's why it's really important to supplement, because we can't seem to get enough out of our diet. And if we're nauseous, it's so difficult to eat as well during that time.
Yogurt with fruit, like an acai bowl. With lots of yogurt and fruit.
I really do recommend a pregnancy multivitamin because it's so difficult to know which nutrients we are absorbing properly. So our gut microbiome might be a little bit compromised. From a medical point of view, there's so many hormonal changes in the body. So your body's really adjusting and it can create a lot of nausea. But often, people say have some lovely ginger tablets or chewing on some ginger helps.
Extreme clean eating isn't for everyone, or going to the gym every day isn't for everyone. But I think we get this really innate intuition, and I think it's a really good thing to go with your gut.
And listen to what your child wants, not what other people tell you that your child wants.
Oh, I love seeing new mums and hearing their expectations and their hopes. And they all have one thing in common, of course. They all want to be brilliant mums. And being the best you can be is at the core of a charity that's particularly close to my heart, the Pretty Foundation, which is all about empowering girls and nurturing positive body image from a really young age.
It is such a fantastic charity, Jo, and so important. I mean, considering 38% of 4-year-old girls are dissatisfied with their bodies. That stat to me is just unbelievable, Jo.
It is. 4-year-olds worrying about the way they look. It's really upsetting. Yeah. So the foundation is all about teaching girls that their value is in what they do, not what they look like, which is why they're running the Pretty Inspirational Awards. So the foundation runs the Pretty Inspirational Awards every year, which honours girls under the age of 18 who are following their dreams and inspiring others. So they might have demonstrated kindness or bravery or excelled in the field of sport or art or school. It's basically any girl who's setting a great example.
That's right, Jo. Nominations for the Pretty Inspirational Awards close on February 16. So please head to their website at prettyfoundation.org and nominate a brilliant young girl in your life now.
Yeah, well done, Jo. I know you're hosting that night. It's a great passion of yours, so congratulations.
And our young people are doing amazing things. Yeah. Let's award them for that.
Yeah, great idea. Well, we've kicked off 2020 in style, I think, back here. It's been sensational. Go to our website, houseofwellness.com.au, for more info on all things healthy and for any information from today's show. Don't forget to tune into the House of Wellness radio show every Sunday. And thanks again to our very good friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.